Hello, everybody. Patrick Hester here with you from the Irish Horse Centre, the Mayo Roscommon Breeders Group. Today, we're just going to discuss with the upcoming selection days now for our both our foal sales in October and also our young horse auction in October as well on the 7th of October. We're going to focus today on the training and production of young horses for sale. And we're joined today by Longford, former Longford-based, but now in the States, rider and agent Jordan Kilkenny. So, guys, it's just an opportunity to gain an insight from Jordan, now based in the States, on the actual production of young horses. And also maybe bring some insight to what the market is actually looking for in the young horse 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old, whatever those young horse category actually comes out to our selection days. And again, just to highlight some more developments within the group, we'll discuss it again at a later stage, but great development in the equine farming front with the Targeted Agricultural Modernisation Scheme now available to Irish breeders in 2023 under CAP 2023 to 2027. So again, Jordan, I'd like to welcome you here to this little Zoom call. It's recorded, and Jordan, it's really over to you, really. Could you, thanks for coming along, thanks for agreeing it. Could you maybe give us a bit of a background to you? No one will explain it better than you, and a little bit maybe how you've become engaged with the Irish Horse Centre, myself, the Mayo Roscommon Breeders Group. So Jordan, thanks, and over to you for a little introduction to yourself and what you do and where you've come from in the States.
Thank you very much for having me. So I originally come from Longford, just outside Ballyman. There's where I started. Grew up riding ponies, started out in Mosstown Stables, where the Hartsons have, started out riding there. Later stage in my age, probably 7 or 8 years old, we met Andrew Farrell, who became a big part of what I do now in my business and also my career riding ponies and starting out as a young rider with horses. And, then as we said, with horses and everything and ponies, it's something that it comes down to, like with a career and having people behind you, it's important. And I think, the grassroots where you start out is very important to me. Going up in ponies, I've had a very good supporter, sponsor nearly, like a guy called Paddy Bly, who's from Castlereagh, County Roscommon.
Yeah.
Without that guy, I think my career in ponies probably wouldn't have been as successful. I could definitely say it wouldn't have been. He bred fantastic ponies, went on to go to Europeans that myself and my brother produced, but that was also at the hands of Andrew Farrell being able to be such a good horseman, to know what it took to be a good pony, that we could do that, and with his sort of mentoring and guidance, we were able to produce them ponies up to a good level. And, Paddy Bly being a breeder from the West, he bred them ponies, went to Ignatius Gannon Stallion in Castlereagh, had the mares years. And, he originally started out with the Quinn family from Castlereagh, and Liam Cohen and Joe Sharkey broke them, and probably the best pony for me at the time was a pony we had called Castle Hill King. And he was a pony that Paddy bred. Liam and Joe broke him. Liam took him to his first few shows, and that was the pony. It was probably the best pony I had in my last 2 years of ponies. He was fantastic. And, like someone like Paddy really, gave me a good foundation for that. But then, also, having the guidance and the mentorship of someone like Andrew Farrell really helped me a lot, develop my riding and everything like that. And, that's why I always, you look at Longford had been a great base for me, having someone like Andrew there to guide me and direct me in the right direction with some of the horses and ponies that I look at and what I try to do. So I won't hold you too much longer on that, but we can discuss it more if you wish. But I think I came to America in January 2020. I came to after working a stint for Cian O'Connor, Greg Broderick, Clem McMahon, Gabriel Slattery, a lot of Irish people. And I came to America in January 2020, I was talking to Andrew and Cian, and came up with the idea, going to the States would be a good option, especially for what we wanted to do. Came up as a rider at the time, and was looking to keep progressing my career as a rider, and came to the States. And I think then after, I was here a couple of months, and I went to a horse show in Traverse City in Michigan, and I met a guy there who was a big dealer at the time. It still is. Met a guy there, and you know, sort of, I was riding good classes in America at the time, good competitions, up to 3-star level, and met this guy called Don Stewart, and he's been super. You know, I've done a bit of business with him, everything like that, and you know, he's been a big guidance for me in America with horses and ponies that work for the American market and what it takes to be a horse or a pony in the American market to suit the American clientele. And you know, when I came to America, it wasn't a vision of mine to really get into equitation horses or hunters or, you know, ponies, for instance. I thought I left them years behind me, but here we are, modern day. We own ponies and horses and equitation horses and hunters, and you know, like, that's something, you know, I'm very grateful for the people, you know, that have directed me in the right way and been there behind me to show me the right path that they maybe thought themselves was a good path to go down. And I think, you know, the people that I've surrounded myself with, I've been very fortunate that they've been great at guiding me down the right path.
Yeah, brilliant. And I suppose, Jordan, really, as we move on to discuss the young horse auction within the Irish Horse Centre, you know, everyone can see it plain as day. It's about connecting the international equestrian community with leading Irish breeders and producers. And it's exactly what you've got there as well, you know. And again, what we're trying to do, and what's worked out successful for us so far with the young horse, with the foal sale, is that we have a very clear strategy, and it's kind of based on 3 principles, and it's clear and transparent foal selection. And I might get you to discuss how the clear and transparency has kind of developed our relationship with you and the Irish Horse Centre and the foal sale. It's about clear and transparent foal selection, and how clear and transparency is so important in your own business, because you've mentioned this in our prep talk. And again, the international marketing and promotion. The likes of the Paddy Blyes of this world, or the Ignatius Gannons, they don't necessarily have the platform to advertise and get their product out there, which is where the Irish Horse Centre now, it's such a, as you said before, we've evolved with the market. We've put a platform in place that gives them all the tools, the transparency, the x-rays, the videos, the pictures. And again, you've mentioned also about our selection committee as well, that they're, you know, very clear and precise people, and well got in the sector. And then also, I suppose, number 3 is the loyal customer base, both nationally and internationally, because our foal sale is 70% to our national, and again, we're looking towards bridging the gap to the international market. And I suppose, to just give people a little bit of a background on the young horse foal, or the young horse section of our sale, we're using pretty much the same strategy as the foal sale, but we're now looking at the traits of training the young horses and the production needed to meet the market as from 3 years of age onwards. And again, it's about building those connections. So we've had 2 online auctions so far, both in 2020 and 21, and now this year, for the first time since we got going at it, you know, we've had the opportunity now to go hybrid with it, so we can have people in the room and use the great platform that we've implemented through PWeb Solutions. So that's where we're going with it, and we're actually getting repeat business from last year. And while it wasn't a huge amount of numbers at the auction, we're getting a lot of, they like the service that they got through us. They liked, I suppose, the clear and transparency. So I suppose, just to get back to you, Jordan, what has been your experience with the Irish Horse Centre and the Mayo Roscommon Breeders Group, and what is it that you like about it? And again, as I'll be clear and straight with people here, Jordan is not here on a paid endorsement or any fee like that. Jordan, you'll explain the relationship and how it's developed.
Yeah, I think, you know, I messaged you last year and I was looking for a bit of feedback, I suppose, on some of the foals I've seen in the catalogue. And I was, you know, interested to see, you know, what the feedback was on the day of the selections, what the selectors thought of the foals that they were examining. And I think, as I've mentioned, you've got a great, like, open-minded people selecting the foals. You know, you've got 4 different dynamic people coming from different places examining the foals. And I think for someone like me, say even before I can send someone like Andrew to view these foals on the day of the sale or something like that, it's very easy for me to read the catalogue, see the breeding, see a video clip of the foal. If I like it from there, then I come to you and we're like, okay, what was the feedback from everybody? And you were great with that. You know, you really gave me the information I wanted to know, which later led me to purchase some, or which some we wanted or whatever. And I think, you know, having that understanding, say, someone for me, say, like, I'm in America, in an instance where I want to understand what everybody else is thinking of these foals and being able to put an idea together, it's very easy for me to do that with the transparency you guys give with the feedback from the selectors. And I think, you know, as I discussed, like, say, in America, some of these American people don't have someone like me, like an Andrew Farrell, that can go and view these foals or young horses around the country or whatever needs to be seen. They need the guidance from you guys, or even people in Europe, they need the guidance from you guys with the comments and the notes from the selectors on what their opinion was in the foal or the young horse as it be now. I think, you know, that is crucial for people, and to get repeat business is that people understand that they're getting a product. You know, like, we're in a supply and demand market, so people want to understand what they see, what they're reading is what it turns out to be, you know. And that's sometimes it's hard to say, like, you go online to an online auction, you read the breeding and it looks great, but when you see it in person, it's a completely different picture. So I think having the reports from your selectors and being able to add that to the information you can get online with the videos and the breeding is important. So you're able to get more of an idea of what you're actually buying, or, you know, how it stands and presents itself. Does it have a good expression? Does it, like, you know, does it have a cute head, which they really like in America? You know, does it stand well? Like, all these things, you know, are important. Is it turned out? Is it turned in? Is it well put together? You know, these are all things that I think, you know, being able to have the, say, the transparency from you guys and the reports back, you can't really see that stuff on the videos, or you can't really see it on the pictures.
No.
So if you don't have somebody there to view them, that's sort of the risk. And I think by giving them notes to the people or the client, you're able to eliminate that factor a little bit further, which I think is unique, because I don't think I've seen that anywhere else I've really shopped. And, you know, I think the fact that the people selecting the foals, or now the young horses, aren't specifically the owners, is giving the client more of a belief that, okay, he's getting a very valuable and transparent and truthful examination of the product or the foal or the young horse.
That's it. And, you know, as you mentioned about the committee or the inspector group, like, I'm based where I'm based. I'm based in Norway. I look after the platform. I don't necessarily get in for all the selection days. Last year, I was absolutely amazed when I walked in and seen the foals starting to parade in the first 20. I just thought the benchmark of the quality of the foals coming through in terms of type and the pedigrees, more so on the type, that the benchmark that the guys had, it's so rock solid. You know, obviously we looked at 200 foals. It's not an easy job to narrow it down, but it's easy to narrow it down when you see so many, and you see just the modern type coming through, and even just seeing them coming through from the young horse, or from the Ecclesville as well, really great. So again, we're trying to replicate the same thing now with the young horse auction. I don't want to drift from the foals as well, but I want to stay on the track of the young horses. So, you know, we have the committee and we have the team there. They understand the breeding, they understand the market. And I suppose, Jordan, we're here with you today really just to, I suppose, you know, we're looking at the same strategy and the traits, but I want you to just maybe discuss now today, you know, what do you think about this niche in the market? If we actually think about it, the Western Corridor, you know, in the west of Ireland, there's 14.5% of the actual land area used for breeding and production. And yet there's no sale down that Western Corridor, if you think about it, that actually services for a really well-presented young horse with clean x-rays from a well-inspected committee, there's no product like it there. So where do you see the opportunities for us, and also, I suppose, move on there? You know, what would you like to start to see in the production?
So I think, like, I'd like to readdress the thing with, you know, your sale is breeders for the breeders, you know, and as we discussed, like a Paddy Bly or Ignatius Gannon, you know, these people need your platform to promote them, because if they're not a big household name, it's very difficult. Where do they advertise, or where do they bring them? It's a select sale they can bring them to. And, you know, I think having that platform with you guys really gives these, maybe, you know, like in Europe or in England or wherever I go to buy horses in Ireland, you sometimes have to beat a few bushes to find the raw material product. And I think that's sort of in the West, you know, there's a lot of old breeders that wouldn't really have people that is into the internet, or, like, you know, people that are around them. People say, oh, they will, but some of these people don't really like to do that. And I think having a personal relationship like you guys do with these older breeders gives them, you know, a belief that they can actually follow into it and, you know, listen to your guidance and actually come through with that. And I think, you know, that falls back to, say, someone like me, for like Paddy Bly, who listen to someone like Andrew saying, no, this is the one to keep, this is the one to produce, this is the time to sell it. I think having that guidance from you guys for people like that is so useful, and it's a brilliant tool to be able to have.
Gordon, can you just maybe discuss the American market for the viewers, and currently the way you see it currently?
So the way I see the American market currently, for me, in the way I've diversified into all aspects, you know, the hunters, the equitation, the jumpers and the ponies, like some eventers and stuff, but mostly that, the hunter side and jumpers and equitation. It's a supply and demand market, in the sense of people want a product and that's what they want. So I think, you know, it's, firstly, I think if I think of an American horse, it needs to be attractive. You know, most of these people in America have only one or a couple of horses, and when they walk down the stable aisle, it's not like they have it out their back door. They maybe drive 30 minutes, 40 minutes or an hour, some people longer, and they have a trainer, but their few horses, they want them, when they poke their heads out over the door, to be pretty and attractive. That's something they all aspire to look for when they look for a horse. I think, you know, when I think of another traits I like to see in American, for a horse for America, I think, you know, expression. A horse with a good expression, a good character, you know, the ears forward, nice to be around, you know, it's important, because, as I say, like the Americans, some of these people don't have many horses, so they want one that they can really enjoy being around and they like being around, and one that likes to be cuddled and taken on trail rides and stuff like that. I think, you know, a character like that. I think then also something important is to have a horse that has a good balance, you know, a good balance, and, you know, a horse that has a big stride. So if somebody makes a mistake, it's easy for these people to get down the lines. And I think, you know, these are simple traits. They might seem like coming across, but I tell you, to find a horse with all them traits is not so easy. I'm looking for them every day. You know, I think, you know, as I see the American market, it comes like, you know, you see some horses and people want to produce them to jump big jumps, and, you know, they'd rather have a horse that goes around a 130 with 2 down, to say they've jumped their horse around 130, than have a horse that's a winner around 120. You know, like it's more important to look at the horse and think, you know, where does he fit into what I want him, where does he fit into what I want him to go and be good at, I think is a more crucial thing to look at, rather than what is more egotistical, or what you want your horse to do because you want him to do it. Like, you know, you're better to have the winner around 120 than the horse that knocks 2 jumps around 130, in my own personal opinion, because when they come to America, firstly, the horse, you want them to be safe. You want these people to be safe, like that the horse is going to take them from A to B. It's not going to be jipping or jiving. It's going to be safe, and the person riding it is going to be safe. That, you know, that's why when I say like a big stride, a good character, pretty, and like a horse with a nice balance, these are all things that fall into place, you know, to making a horse nice, in my opinion, suitable for the American market. Yeah. And like, you know, that's, sometimes people don't get that across, you know, that they think, well, Asher, he's quiet, or, you know, he goes like this, you know, but that's something I look at, like, the horse still has to be what they want. You know, they're, as I said, like, it's a supply and demand market. If they don't get the product they want, well, they're going to go looking for it elsewhere. So you're better to be truthful to yourself and pick the horse that what his job is going to be best at, you know. And that's something like, I, like, even talking my own experiences recently, was talking to an Irish person about a horse, and you know, it's an old thing. Like, they were like, oh well, you know, he's done all these shows, but there's no record to prove it. Well, if I'm on the other side of the world, where I am in America, and I ask one of my friends to go and try the horse, where we're back to the whole transparency thing, is what I know makes an American horse, or a horse suitable for the Americans, and what an Irish person thinks is suitable for the Americans, sometimes gets crossed, because it's not just like where they want to pull them into a shape and kick them around, and you know, where they have to pull them for the lead change. Like, they don't want to do that. They want, like most of these Americans, to do it as a hobby, a good few of them, and they enjoy doing it. So they want to have an enjoyable experience. So like, that's why it all plays into part. And, you know, having, you know, producing your horse correctly for what you would like to see them go do, I think is crucial. And, you know, as you ask me, you know, what do I see as production of young horses? Like, you know, I own some young horses, and I send them to Liam Cohen, and I think he does a fantastic job. And I think for me, you know, not overdoing them, you know, is a big thing. You know, these people jump the legs off them, like, you know,
because obviously the product we're going to be selling is going to be young. You know, it's going to be in that category 3, as you said, 3 to 6 is the opportune window in Ireland. We are the opposite in Ireland, aren't we? Because we're a production nation, and we're a sell nation to the consumer markets, just like the States. I'm based in Scandinavia. There's no breeding going on here. There's no one training a young horse, only myself. So they're consumer markets, and Ireland is a production and selling market. So I suppose we need to look at that production now, as to give some of the producers some advice. What would be some of that early nurturing that we might put into them, and have them, you know, for the American or you or potential clients looking in, what sort of production would you like to see in the videos, and even, you know, the production of the horses in general?
I think for me personally, like, when I look back, like, well, how we done it and what I see here, you know, like, there's some people that produce horses in America, but it's so expensive. Like, I cannot, like, say it enough how expensive it is here. And I think, you know, as I've discussed with you in the past, like, this is how our whole conversations evolved, like how we talked about stuff. Having somebody in Ireland that people can trust to produce their horses good enough and well enough for exactly what they want when they arrive to the States is, you know, as we say, it's a supply and demand. They want their product. Like, when they walk into the shop and they want a loaf of bread, they know the specific brand they want. That's what they want. So like, it's the same for me with the production. They want their product doing XYZ. Well, you know, like, to give a small idea, it's not like where an Irish person would pull and kick a horse over to get a lead change. It's, you know, they want their horses to be simple. And I think where I would describe it, so say, like, if I had to say, like, a 3-year-old, I think, you know, you want them to be well handled, you know, that they can stand in cross ties, get groomed, that they stand quiet for the farrier. You know, these simple things are important, because here in America, they'll be stood in cross ties for a while, and they'll be tacked up and groomed there, and they'll be clipped there. So I think, like, teaching a horse the basics, like handling them, that they're easy to lead, that when you lunge the horse, that they actually go round in a circle, they're not dragging you all over the place, that you know, that they're, as I said, easy to shoe. And that's not a sense of, you know, like, you know, that they stand quiet, but, you know, they stand quiet and easy, that they're not trying to kill you. You know, that's the whole thing, back to, like, handling the horses correctly. I think, you know, especially with the 3-year-olds, because when you go to break them, it's important. And I think there was something maybe I learned a long time ago when I worked for Gabriel Slattery. There was an English lady called Sarah Thorne, and she was, one thing I remember she taught me was, like I'm always like that, the first fight to try and learn, but she always taught me, like, have them quiet at the mountain block. One thing I would say is, like, you know, it's all good lying across the young horses and stuff like that, and, you know, like, breaking them. Let's go into that for a second. I talked to a few Americans recently only about this, and they were saying how much we do with them, as where they'll someone will put a bit in their mouth, no breaking bit, like just a normal snaffle, lunge them around with a saddle on them, then ride them after 3 or 4 days. You know, myself personally, I think that's crazy, but I'd like the whole Irish thing, you know, put the side reins on them, drive them round, get them used to twisting and turning, going forwards, going back, stopping. You know, that's crucial, because that is such a foundation basics when you ride a young horse. You know, what do you want them to do? You want them to be able to go forward, back, left, right, stop.
Yeah.
You know, I think also, if I had to describe and like producing a horse for an American person, like, or what I would want to see if I bought a horse, is this is a simple thing, but it actually is a lot. To stand at the mountain block.
Yeah.
On his own, not like somebody holding his head and feeding him carrots. Like, they don't really do that, but you want the horse to learn to stand there. Somebody pull the mountain block over, get up in the mountain block, which you probably see this in Scandinavia, and be able to get on the horse, and he stands quiet until they ask him to walk away. And people will say, oh, well, sure, like, you know, how do you do that? Well, time is a virtue, and time is a thing that young horses need. You know, they're not going, some aren't going to come as fast as the others, and they need time. And I think something like that, you know, people might think I'm crazy, but I can promise you that in America, quiet enough to stand at the mountain block, that if an older lady or somebody comes along and they want to put their foot in the stirrup and fix their gloves and everything like that, that is something that actually is important, and people might realize how important it is. And I think, you know, as I've discussed earlier in the prep, like for me, like going to a show facility with nice jumps, but giving a horse a good experience in the ring.
Yeah.
You know, they have a good experience every time they come out, that the horse is confident in what they're doing. I think, you know, if you don't teach them to have good experiences, later on, you can sort of see it relaying, because I can even see it with some of the horses I buy, you know, like some of the traits maybe you see, you know, like if they're not trained at water correctly, or like, you know, they have an issue with the water, they learn to stop at the water, well, that will relay the rest of their lives. But if you teach them, it won't. If you give them time, it won't. And I think, you know, for me, like having somebody good that's going to take their time producing the horses, you know, is important. And I think, you know, as I talk, that's just about like the breaking and the starting the horses. But now as I talk, say about a 4-year-old, 5-year-old.
Moving on to the under saddle section.
Like a horse that's light in the contact, but not drilled round in draw reins, that like it's a false contact, that the horse is literally just sat there in a frame, but there's no head nor tail. Whether you touch the reins, he slows down, or his head doesn't move. Like a horse's balance will come from that range where they continue to hold their head. I think, you know, letting a horse sort of move in their own balance is good for me, so I can see where that horse's balance is. Well, if somebody manufactures the horse around, it's very difficult until you tell them to let their heads go, where like to see the balance. But usually then what happens is everything gets strung out and it goes out the door. So I think if I like had to get a video or look at your videos and say there's a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, like not to be going off the topic, I would want to see it like walk around on a loose rein, that the horse is relaxed, that the horse isn't tense, that I know that he's relaxed, and I can see him at his best ability at the time, or his truest form. I think then as he's trotting around, that he's nice in the contact, that he's respectful of the rider, that he's not being fussy in the mount, or he's not, you know, ducking behind it, that he's respectful of what the rider is asking, but also that he's in balance and moving consistently nice. I think then cantering, you know, you want to see the horse carrying himself, that the rider's not jabbing his legs into him or gigging him up and putting too much pressure on and holding him with his hands, that then the horse is sort of sat under the rider's control. You want to let the horse sort of move freely underneath you. Like, I think, you know, an interesting thing for maybe people to see is, or I could send you, you could see videos, is hunters in America, like, or equitation horses, they sort of carry themselves, or even the jumpers, the riders get on and they want the horse to carry themselves. Well, if they've been trained their whole lives to be under a rider's control to the point of like that they don't move, it's very difficult to break that, because that is all they know. And I think that's where it becomes very difficult. And I think, you know, that for me, like, is important to see. But there's one key thing which I've relayed to you several times, is a lead change, like a flying change, lead change, whatever people want to call it. And that is like the make and break of selling horses, I would say,
For the USA.
90% USA make or break. And like, it's not like when, say, like you ride an American Hunter and you jump a jump and the horse lands on the right lead. Before the corner, you need to have the lead change, not after the corner or running through the corner, cantering or counter-cantering or whatever he's doing. They need to land in balance, change to the correct lead and continue forward. It's all about a picture. And I think, you know, people in America, they're not going to control them and push them over with their inside leg to the new outside hand and vice versa and push that change. So it's vital that the horse has a good experience, that he does it naturally rather than being forced into it. Because if they're forced into it, I don't care. I've ridden enough of horses now. They don't ever learn to naturally do it because they associate with it. Or even if they do learn, it takes a long time.
Yeah.
But they associate it all with that pressure. And it's like about teaching the horses to have a good experience about going around and doing it. For me personally, is vital. I would rather a horse be a little bit greener, but doing all these things relatively well, than a horse that's going around, maybe jumping around like a freak, but everything is manufactured. You know, like that's not something that I personally like to see, or even when I talk to people, they don't like to see it, you know, because it's something crucial. And I think teaching a horse over a canter pole in the ring or a cavaletti to learn change is such a simple training tool, but also, you know, it's something that people don't maybe utilize enough, or they're always in a rush, or, you know, some people in America, like in Ireland, should I say, would be overhorsed and understaffed. So how did they give these horses the time? Well, they can't. That's the long and the short of it. They can't. You know, and it's like, when I'd have the conversations with Andrew about my young horses and stuff like that, and his ones, you know, why rush? You know, what more are you going to get out? You might sell it now, but the repeat customer, if you want to talk about it like that, won't return because the product won't be what they want. Like if you tell them, oh, it does an easy lead change, they want it to actually physically do an easy lead change, not just be pulled over and get the lead. Because that's something that for me, I can't tell people enough about, is how a lead change will 100% make and break a sale, you know. And it's the market we're in, and it's about, people say, oh, well, you know, they get used to it or this, that. They won't. We're in a supply and demand market. They want a product. They're going to keep going until they find it. And there's no real place, to be honest. Like some horses, yes, you will get some horses sold to America with no lead change, but 90% of them, I would say, they have. And that's why, in a sense, you know, look at Continental, how many horses from the continent get sold to America is because the horses are so established with their flat work, and they're not worried about going around jumping a 4-year-old around 110. Like there is some that take it and do it relatively well, and there's such good horses that came from that, you know. And but you know, you look at, like, I would say, like a rider like Francis Connors, you know, like the Irish horse which we spoke about already, that Pat Connolly bred, and Mary Gannon, or Anne Clancy and Mary Gannon sold to Shane Sweetenham. The horse only ever jumped one FEI show in his life, was produced by John Mulligan as a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I think Fra got as a 6. Fra took time, John took his time. The horse still went to Dublin and did these things, but the production was still there good enough that it worked. But then people have to look at the animal and the horse they have as the same, as I go back to, like, you know, which is it better to have, a horse that's really good around 120 or a horse that knocks 2 jumps around 130? Each horse is different. So you have to establish, well, which one takes more time, and what is the process I need for this one, and does he need a bit of time off? You know, is he getting sore, as where maybe this one takes more work? And I think, I'm going off the topic a little bit, but I think, you know, that's a thing that people need to look at a little bit, because it's a crucial, like, you know, as you guys develop your sale to be more suited to the European and American market, that is something that you have to look at strongly, because otherwise it's going to be so difficult. Because, you know, you might have customers for the first few times, but there's only so many times it can't work or doesn't work, that then they'll be like, you know, what's the point going back there? And if it's a long-term thing, which, you know, as we discussed, that you guys want to do, you know, this is important. And it's, as I say to you, like, I'm one of these consumers, so it's not like I'm just talking about, like, somebody told me this, I'm just reiterating it. Like,
Exactly,
I am.
And that's why you're on here today. You know, it's to discuss with you the cold face of the market as well, about what is the market looking for, what sort of production do we really need to look at, you know, and you know, hopefully now that we can get our facilities up to scratch as breeders and producers in Ireland as well. I'm not going to get into the TAMs and all of that, but again, and I suppose, you know, this is supposed to be somewhat educational as well, because not all the producers will be. There might be someone very good to produce the foal up to 3, and there'll be good people there that'll be able to school a nice 3-year-old down through a gymnastic. I suppose through our videos, we'll be looking for the selected young horses at the 3-year-old phase, that we can see them across the diagonal in the loose jumping as well, and we can see, does he naturally make his lead change, and I suppose these are the key indicators. Is the lead change going to be easy for him under saddle then as well? You know, if he can naturally do it on the ground, we can see it in the field with the foal. These are some of the things that the selection committee will also be bringing through, and we'll be putting that through in the marketing and the promotion as well in the videos.
Yeah, and I think, like, as I said to you before, like, you know, everybody will have their different opinion on what they think is right and wrong. Like, as our conversation goes on, this is my opinion as I've seen it over the last 2.5 years. And I think, you know, like, as I said, like, I have no problem helping you guys. If somebody sent over a video and asked, well, what do I think, or I have no problem helping, because at the end of the day, the way I look at it is, you know, I started out as one like this with Andrew, and we produced horses, and you know, we had to go to sales. We relied on places to sell our horses to be able to keep going with the show and going to the horse shows, and you know, you rely on it. So I think maybe having people there that like doesn't mind giving an eye or a hand like that is useful, because you know, like, at the end of the day, the way I look at it, and I say it, like, I'm a breeder myself. I breed horses and I buy young horses. Without the breeders, it's not possible. None of it. Whether I ride a horse to jump bigger Grand Prix, or I buy a horse to ride to sell as a sales horse or whatever, none of it is possible without the breeders. So why not give them the education and sort of maybe the right tools to help what I do go a little bit further, in the sense of, you know, being the production and, you know, what you want to see, and having a very clear idea. Well, look, this is what it's going to cost. You know, don't cut the corners. This is what it's going to cost to produce it this far. If you really don't want to be in it that long, you're probably better to sell it as a trio. And this is something I like came across recently with back to the Irish person that told me, like, you know, their horse done all this, but he had no record. Like, back to the production, you know, the horse jumped all these shows and training shows, but they have no videos. Or he has no record. Well, who's to say what? Like, there needs to be that transparency of, you need to have some clear idea. Even if you go to training shows, take a video. Someone like me that buys rawer horses or underproduced horses, and still buys older ones that are produced, but you know, that I can see the product, that it's not like, you know, that I have a vision over a few weeks. Even if he makes mistakes, I'd rather somebody sends me a video, horse knocking jumps, so I can understand, well, actually he learned the next day he come out. Not that it has to be this picture video. Like, a good horseman will look through all that. And I think, you know, I came across this man, he had a really nice horse, and when I was talking to him, he started telling me then that the horse was going to be an American hunter. And I was like, well, actually, I was going to try the horse as an American equitation horse. I'm going to try him as a hunter at all. But it's down to not being so abrupt, in the sense of, you know, telling somebody what it should be. Like try and maybe see where they're coming from. And the big thing is not being greedy. You know, you have to sell your horses or wish them to be lucky, you know, like, and that's where it comes down to, like, originally the horse I'm talking about, like, and this where I think it's actually maybe a good thing to say to the breeders, like, this horse I'm talking about got sent to me by the guy that had it on livery to get it sold, produce it. And the horse, he priced it to me at one price. And then the owner priced it to me at more expensive, 10,000 more expensive, which is enough for money. But like, a horse that doesn't have a huge record, well, how do you establish that? So then it comes down to, I said to the guy, well, you know, how do you justify that? Like, I remember this horse, I got shown it the other day, and he got on to me about the horse after, by the guy that has the horse. at 10,000 less, and he justified it by just because I was in America, the horse should be more expensive. And I can promise this now, as I am here right now, that as soon as that happens, I will never, because at the end of the day, he's not selling it lucky. He's more afraid that the horse will come and he'll get sold expensive. And, you know, I would have made £1 on it, as a man would say. But if you knew the cost to upkeep a horse, astronomical. Like, you know, a normal shoeing on a horse in America, a simple thing, like, could be anywhere from $300 to $450.
Yeah.
You do it every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, when you break it down, like if we went into the breakdown of it all, you should be pricing your horse for what he is, not for what he could be or hopefully could be, because that's, you're living on a whim then. You're hoping it could be that. Well, you know, we'd all be millionaires if we were selling horses off the hope of what they could do. You have to look at it and be honest and be straight up and be like, well, this is what the horse is today. This is what I think he could be. I hope he's lucky for you and I hope he comes back. I tell you what, when you hear them words, you do want to come back, because you're like, you know what, this fella's been fair. And the way I look at it, I'll value a horse at what I see it's worth, with the calculation in my head, what I have to put into it to get it to the next step and what I think it gets sold for. You know, that's how you do it. Like, and it's like anybody that buys horses, you know, that's a simple thing I'm describing. But down to the whole thing of just because people think now, oh, well, Jordan's here and he's in America and he can sell horses. Well, I still look at horses as they are, what they're doing. I don't look at them like, you know, I should be getting charged way more. And I know people think that, but at the end of the day, if that's the case for someone like me, well, why would I come back and buy horses if I can't think about it? Like, I can go to Europe and buy the same horse as it. Like, and I like to buy from Irish people if I can, because you try to give back and you advise. But if they make it difficult, it's a lot easier to go to, there's 1,000 more people trying to sell horses.
Exactly.
They can all give
that's the main thing. We're trying to make the connections for the breeders and the producers of Ireland, you know, that's the whole focus of the young horse auction as well, and to replicate what we've achieved in the foal sale as well. So I suppose, Jordan, to bring it to a head, I suppose I've asked you, you know, how do you currently see the industry in Ireland, and what's your vision for the market and the breeding industry in Ireland over the next 10 years, for example? And where do you see, hopefully we're going to link with you for the next 10 years, but where do you see the breeding for, the market and the breeding and the production going, in the next 10 years?
Well, I think, you know, it's like that thing, or I'd say with the production. I think if the people don't grab the bull by the horns and think, you know what, like, maybe this is something I should look into, that I can get a better quality, say like somebody in Ireland that's like, you know, I've got 20 horses, I'd rather get down to 10, you know, and do it at a better scale. I think, you know, that's where it has to come to, like, because in a sense, because if people have like 30 horses in and they've got one rider and one groom, well, you know, how is a horse all supposed to get the correct amount of time that they need? And, you know, it's like that. Like, I think, you know, every horse, you have to look at it, what it's supposed to be and what it's doing. And, you know, I understand there's different people, different circumstances, but for me personally, now as I'm talking, I would probably want to see, you know, somebody that if I had to send my horses to them, that I know they're going to get the time, that I'm going to put in the money, that they're going to get the time I know they need, and they're going to listen, and we're going to talk it over, and you're going to get videos, and you're going to understand, and you're going to be able to advise that person and help them. I think, you know, unless people start to grasp at that and understand it and want to do it, it'll be very hard to improve the production. Well, if you don't change the chain, if you don't change the chain, it's very hard to get a different outcome. You're going to get the same outcome continuously. So people, I think, you know, you have younger people coming through, and I think I talk to some people, you know, and they start to understand that. And I think as the breeding, as we start to bring more continental breeding back to Ireland, I think we'll start to see that more commercial horse for what I'm looking for, bred and produced there and bought there. But it's going to take that time, as we said, over the 10 years, it's going to take that time for that to happen with the breeding and everything to evolve and for it to play out. It's going to take time. And as I see as the market, well, the market is what the market does. You know, if you're not going to put in the time and do it as we've discussed, it's not going to change. There's no point in saying it will. You know, like, you look at people like, say, like Freestyling Farms in America, the Gaffney family, they use Olive Clark and David Scally, and they do a fantastic job for them. They just come over, and I see them at the shows, and you see the videos, and they do a great job producing them. And like I've seen, like, they've done a couple of hunters and equitation horses for friends of mine, and they've done a fantastic job. And having people like that there, that do it, that you can use. And as I say, like myself, I use Liam Cohen. I think he does a fantastic job. Glenamady, where you have your sales, has a fantastic course of jumps. Great thing. And like, as I said earlier on, like, places like going to shows, giving horse good experience, like Tubber Bride, for me personally, like if I had to produce horses, like it's the best horse show in the world, because they're horse people. If your horse spooks at a jump, you go back around twice if you need to, give them a jump over it, get a good experience, that you're going away and the horse has learned, and there's no stress or tension, or he fell through a jump and you can't come back around and jump it, or there's 12 jumps, but if you knock one in the first 8, you can't jump the rest of the course. Like, Ireland is a producing country, so it should be about horses. It shouldn't be about getting the most in the ring, getting the biggest return. No, it should be about producing the horses and what we want as a consumer, like myself, what we want to see, and I think, that for me, like, it's fantastic. Like, Glenamady wasn't there in my time, but it was when Andrew was going before with the riders he had. I think, it's fantastic to see it back up and going, but being able to utilize facilities like that is amazing, because, having people there that can do it is fantastic. And I can't say enough, like, the more I go away and as I do what I do in America, like, and I look back and I think to myself, you know what, like, there is no place like it in the world for horses and breeding them and having the pasture and like the grass, hay and the haylage, and the horsemen and the knowledge you can take away from it. That is something like, that I think people around the rest of the world don't have.
No.
And
absolutely.
You look at it, like, look at the Etter family, the breed the horses in Ireland. There's a lot.
There's something to it, and I can see it. I can see it in I'm outside of the box looking in as well, and I can see that, and it's something that the Irish Horse Centre. It's a long road, but it's something that through collaboration, breeders, as you said, the producers, the end product. And again, that's where the link with the Irish Horse Centre is, that it can bridge the gap from the bottom and collaboration the whole way through. And we've proved this at governmental level as well, Jordan, where now, we've lobbied, getting a little bit off track, but again, we've lobbied through government, through politicians, through our Horse Board Ireland, through Teagasc, through our local TDs, as a small little group, Irish Horse Centre and the Mayo Roscommon Breeders Group. And it's that collaboration, and back to our young horse sale, again, collaboration with the breeder, the producer, our platform, and then to the end user as well, and keeping that all clear and transparent as well.
Yeah, like, I think, as like, not to keep going back to it, but back to that transparency thing, for your own people that you have that buy off you guys now and go to the auction, being able to give that back to them, like, as I said, these people that don't have like what I have, like an Andrew, that we have the business together and we have these horses and we do the breeding, and he, like, I haven't been back to Ireland since I left, so him going around with my brood mares and my foals and getting the vet out and the farrier and bringing my horses down to Liam, like, being able to have a good relationship with people, I think, is a very important thing, that people can trust you and know you're going to do the right thing by them and not just, like, run their bills up. That's a very important thing, because people don't want to feel like that. They want to feel like that they can trust you 100%. And I think, that's why it's important to be able to build these relationships. Like, as I said, like, as I have with Andrew, what I do would not be possible without him, because although I'm here and I'm selling and I'm meeting the clients, well, he's there bringing the horse down to Liam, and he's there when the vet needs to be called, and he's there when the x-rays have to get taken. And I think that's one thing maybe I would say, like, as we talk about the sales and the x-rays and everything like that, someone like me, I look at x-rays, get my vet to vet them. Unless there's something horrendous on them, I don't really go, no, if you're not clear. I buy the horse, not the x-rays. Like, the x-rays are there to give you an idea of what might occur in the future. They're not there to, like, completely put it down. I'd say if you looked at people as I say to people, look at people. If you take out 100 riders and got them all examined,
yeah,
would you, and you said, well, he could hurt his back in the future because he has this, and he has a chip there in his ankle. So people have that.
yeah.
You wouldn't use them as riders then if that was the case. You're using them because of their ability and what they are. And I think that's where people shouldn't get carried away and be like, oh, it hasn't got a bit of extras. Well, can you live with it? Some of it you can, like, and it never bothers them. And there's the cleanest horses, things go wrong with them. So I think, back to that, like I keep going off topic a load of ways, but I think it's all important to understand the grander scheme of things, that it's not just like so narrow visioned. Like, be like, as you guys are doing now, as you said, 3 years ago you went into the foal auction, and now 3 years later you're going into the young horse auction. I think it's a very, you're broadening the horizon, but for bigger and better things. And if you didn't take that risk and do it, well, then you're missing out and helping these breeders that don't have the voice or the people, or, like people like, say, like now, in instance, we still do ponies and stuff for Paddy Bly. Well, what if we weren't there for him? Where, like, how many more people you have to travel? And I think someone like you guys advising these breeders that, need the help and the advice is amazing, because it just gives them a better understanding of what they need to look and do, and that's important. And I hope, like, I didn't go off too much on the topic and people can maybe take from it too much. And it's not in the sense I want people to think that I'm running down the Irish production at all.
Yeah.
I want them to understand where I'm coming from as in an American
end user. Yeah. You're part of the supply chain. Jordan,
I think where people not to take it like, oh, well, why is he running down? I'm not doing that at all. I'm just expressing my opinion on what I've seen and been there and been in Ireland and done it. What I feel like is the next step that I would personally like to see. And it's not like people can say, oh, well, I'm just talking about it. Like, I have horses myself that I am doing what I'm saying as a production. Like, I have an American hunter down with Liam in Glenamady right now, who's actually, the horse plans to come out in the next couple of weeks, probably 3 or 4 weeks, out to America. And he'll go to a lady I do business with in California. Like, it's where, like, I've entrusted Liam that I know he does a good enough job that I can send them these horses to get them up and going again after their little break. And then they're ready to go when they come out here. And I can trust the process he's done. So, like, it's not the people that I'm running down everybody. I'm just saying what I've seen and look for and how I've sort of put it all together for myself.
Yeah. Well, Jordan, I'd just like to maybe end it on that one. Thank you for giving us such a good insight into the production, the American market. It's been a pleasure developing the partnership with you and the connection with you over the past year and a half. Again, it's back to that age-old, I can trust you, you can trust me, the clear and transparency, and that is the backbone to the Irish Horse Centre. And like, really, people saying, I get comments, well, maybe we should have a rider endorse it. I actually think we need to roll with what we already have, and this is the product to actually communicate, collaborate with people, and that there's trust, clear and transparency there. So, Jordan, thanks. I don't know if there's anything more you want to add to it, but it's been great insight.
I think just off what you said, like, have a rider endorse it, like, it's one of those things you need to utilize the means you have around you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, rather than go all out, oh, we'll get a rider to endorse, we'll get this, get that. Well, that's not really the next step. The next step is like the simple things that you guys can do well. How are you going to get one rider to endorse it if you've got 30 young horses, say, coming? Like, as we're back to the age-old thing, as we said, a rider having too much to do. You're better to have people that can give you insight on what they want to see better with the training, that they can advise multiple riders, that then it opens up the idea that more people understand what it needs to be and needs to do, rather than just have one rider endorse it. Like, that is not, like, to expand, you need to grow, and people's knowledge needs to grow with it. If you've only got one person that does it, then they've got too many horses, then they can't really advise people. And it's like people like me, you send me a video, it takes me 5 minutes to write back or send a voice note and say what I think. And, it's not in the sense of that, like, I need anything out of it. Like, as we said, like this, I just did this to try and help and advise. And as I said in the past, it's myself with my business growing that I want to have people that I can just go, yeah, I need this sort of horse. What have you got? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's where it falls down to, is having more people understand what it needs to be, rather than just this small, like, narrow mindset of, oh, we'll get one person or we'll get two people and we'll keep confined. Well, why not grow it and help everybody work together? You know,
Exactly.
people working together, there's, you know, it'll play out better in the end, because
That's
it's
it.
more diversity to sell and people to come back. It just opens up way more opportunities.
Jordan, thank you for joining us. It's been great. We're going to look forward to getting this out to the out to our Facebook page and out to all our breeders and producers. And again, just the final update there, that the selection days are up and running now at Glenamady Equestrian Centre for the foal sale in October, and our young horse auction. And I hope you've gained a good insight here from Jordan over the course of, it's going to be interesting looking back as to how long we've been on, Jordan. Brilliant, and thanks again for the insight.